How do you spell that?
Which part? Everything?
The latter.
David, Kalmus.
What?
Kalmus.
That's you.
That's my name. I grew up in Marlborough, New Jersey.
My favorite state.
I grew up in a Reformed household. And going into middle school, at that point I determined that God did not exist. Religion's not real. I spent the next 10 years professing atheism to everybody that I knew. With all my heart, I believed that there was nothing going on, and anybody who believed something I thought was foolish. So I went to Penn State University for undergrad, and this continued and got stronger. And then I went to UCLA, and I was at a Dave Matthews Band concert, and I told my friend that we need to go to Israel. I just had a feeling like I should go on Birthright, I should go check out Israel. So he said, sure. So the first trip we got denied. Then I tried to get on the next year. So the next year I get on the trip. I'm on the plane, I see these two Persian kids who are wrapping this thing around their arm and they're talking to themselves, and I have no idea what's going on. And they explained to me that this is tefillin, and this is what Jewish people do every day. I had no idea. So I got very close with these two Persian guys. And after the trip was over, Birthright, it was very nice, it felt very spiritual, and it was cool. And then after the trip, they asked me if I wanted to extend my trip and travel around Israel. So I said, you know, I really have another concert that I want to go to at home. I don't think so. And I spoke to my dad. He said, look, you're in Israel. You're never going to be there again. You might as well just travel around. You're starting graduate school in 2 months. So I said, okay, fine. So I traveled with these kids around Israel. And a week before I left, I was in Eilat. And I met this girl there. And I sat and I spoke to her for 20 minutes. And she spoke English, which was good, because I didn't speak any Hebrew. And I said to her, do you want to hang out tomorrow? And she said, tomorrow's Shabbat. So I said, what's that? And she told me, you know, Jewish people, they rest with their family and friends. And I said, okay, cool, so can we hang out then while you guys do that? She's like, I don't know, I don't think so. She didn't think I was getting it. So I said, okay, do you have Facebook? So she said, no. So then, like, I realized at this point that this person is religious, whatever that meant. And no, it's true. So I was like, I don't think she's interested. So I was in Israel. I'm like, okay, I should, like, you know, this isn't my place. I should respect the place, and I should just kind of, you know, relax. It was nice to meet you. So I said, okay, it was nice to meet you. Pretty much have a nice life. So about 3 hours later, I was in a pizza place, and she walks in with her sisters again. So now I'm excited. She comes back in. So now I have to figure out a way to speak to her again. So I told her I didn't know how to order the pizza. So they actually spoke English. I could easily order the pizza. And she helped me order the pizza. And then we spoke again for like another hour. And then my friend said to me, why don't you just ask for her number? And I said, she doesn't want to hang out with me. She just said no to every other question that I asked. She's just being nice. So I was like, okay, fine, so I'll ask her. So I said, can I have your number? And she goes, yeah! She was really excited. So I said, okay, so maybe we can hang out after this Shabbat thing. She goes, well, actually, I'm going back to Tel Aviv. I live in Tel Aviv. So I said, oh, it's great, because me and my friends are actually going back to Tel Aviv for our last week in Israel, which we were, by chance. So I go to hang out with her and her family. It's me and my friends, and it's her and her sisters. They cook us dinner. They take us out bowling. And mind you, I'd never met a family like this. Like in America, everybody has nice big houses, and everything is like very materialistic. And I go in this house. They have this very small house, and they want to go bowling, and they're like jumping up and down to go bowling. They're so excited and so happy and so joyful and so simple. And I'd never met anybody like this. So I was like very intrigued by this whole family. They take us bowling, and it's about 4 a.m. And she says to me, my dad wants to meet you. I said, I think it's like 4 a.m. right now. It's like, I know, he wants to meet you. So I go, okay, all right. right? So I'm like kind of shivering, whatever, and then we go back home, and I see him, he's sitting down, he's watching like action movies, smoking a cigar. By the way, they're a Yemenite family, so if you guys have ever seen the movie Taken, he's like the Israeli version of the guy. The daughters all jump on him and they give him kisses, and I'm like, feel like I'm in another universe. And after I hung out with them, I left Israel, and she probably thought like, okay, I met this nice American, like doesn't know anything about Judaism guy. And I left thinking this is like the most amazing girl I've ever met in my life. I want to try and pursue this. So I went home and I'm speaking to her by text, and we spoke every single day. And now I'm trying to get her to come visit me in America. So she's like, my parents are not going to let me go to America to visit this strange American guy. And anyway, for 6 months I'm convincing her every day to try to come visit me in America. So finally she says, fine. My dad said I can go if I go with a friend. So her and her friend applied for a visa. Her friend got denied and she got approved. So she told me I can't go because she can't come with me. So I said, please, I changed my whole winter vacation. Like I was in graduate school at this point. And I was like, I booked everything around this. Please come. In my mind, really though, it was just 6 months. I'm trying every day to see her again. And finally, somehow, she convinced her dad to let her come to America. She had friends in Florida and in California that she could stay with. Let her. So she came. We had an amazing time until we were in California. I went to school at UCLA, and she got really sick. So she ends up in the UCLA hospital, and she's there for days. And I'm thinking, this woman is never going to want to see me again. She's never going to want to come to America. This is terrible. And it was the biggest blessing in disguise because I stayed with her the entire time, which I thought was normal. She came from another country. She doesn't know anybody. But for her, it was like, okay, this guy is for real. He didn't leave me for 1 minute the entire time I was sick. And she went home and she felt like this guy is really serious. Anyway, I'll fast forward a little bit. We start going out, and eventually we decide to get married. Okay, so I'm fast forwarding a little more now. The main issue, though, is that I am a staunch atheist. I don't believe in God at all. I don't believe in religion at all. I think it's a hoax, and I think it's actually hurting the world, not helping it. And meanwhile, this is my wife, who with all of her heart and all of her soul believes in Hashem, has no doubt in at all. She's like, I hear everything you're saying, but it doesn't matter. And I couldn't put it together. So that was a real concern. So for a year, she's telling me, go speak to rabbis, ask them all these questions that you have. So I said, okay. So now I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm going around to all these different rabbis for a year, asking them all these philosophical questions I've come up with for my whole life. And I'm not getting any answers that really make me feel comfortable. I'm like, wow, this is a very beautiful thing. I like Shabbat. The family's getting together. These are very deep people. They talk about real things. I appreciated all this. But in terms of the absolute truth, nothing. So my wife said to me, talk to another rabbi and ask him the same questions. I said, I just spoke to a rabbi. He goes, yeah, just talk to another rabbi, ask another rabbi. I said, okay, so I'm going rabbi. Finally, one of these rabbis who I became good friends with said, David, I don't know the answers to your questions, but I think you should read this book. So I said, okay. I read this book. It's called The Secret Life of God.
It's my favorite book.
Oh, you read it.
Do I not talk about that book all the time?
So it's by Rabbi David Aaron. He has a Teshuva called Israelite. And this book changed my life. I read this book, and in the middle of reading this book, everything which I felt was the opposite of what I believed was true and my values and my core, I realized that Judaism and me were one. That there was literally no difference between what I felt I was essentially and what the world is and what we're trying to do, and what Judaism says is going on. And I had a real epiphany. I didn't sleep that night, and I told my wife the next day that I was going to start observing Shabbat. So that weekend, I started observing Shabbat. That was 2 years ago. And so I'm Baal Teshuva. Past 2 years have been an amazing, crazy ride. And that's kind of like how I'm here now. And the reason why I wanted to speak to you guys is because I feel like based on my experience in my life, I feel like I have a very different perspective of Judaism than I think maybe most people have. And I just kind of wanted to bring that to you guys and hopefully it's something for you.
Before we break up, does anyone have any?
I'm Sarah. Were you married when you said Kiddush Shabbat or after?
I was not married when I
Oh,
started.
because you said my wife, and I gotta look
Sorry,
at it.
yeah, I was going back and forth. It's a
How
really,
long are you
really long
married for?
story, so it's really hard to explain all of it in like a few minutes, but...
We have time.
How long?
We're
Yeah,
gonna
so
bring
you
it
guys
back.
do with wedding, we have time. How long you guys married for?
What's that?
How long are you married for?
We've been married now since July.
Mazel
I actually was just at the doctor with her. She's pregnant with her first kid. Thank you. So she just found out the gender. I don't want to know until the baby comes out. So anyway, it's her birthday today also. So you guys say happy birthday.
Happy birthday! Any other questions?
In the back, Natana.
How did she accept me? She's all religious and
Great question. Great question. So this is the first thing that religious people ask me whenever I tell them the story. I'm like fascinated by so many other elements of the story, and everybody's always like, "But why did she even speak to you?" Yeah. So good question. Right.
Maybe there's something else you're missing.
No. I think I was really, really fortunate that I met somebody who, based on her life history, she's Yemenite. So like the Yemenites, I don't know if you know, that the Jews in Israel, they have the whole range from like super Haredi Orthodox religious to not observant at all, but they're all very spiritual. It's not like in America where like you have people who don't know anything about Judaism at all. They know everything. They're just doing it or they're not doing it. But she herself grew up in a family where they had everything, and I think therefore she was more open to her friends and cousins who weren't religious. And I think maybe that's why she gave me more of a chance. But really, if you ask her, I think she just thought I was a good person. And I think she thought that eventually, you know, she has very deep faith, like unshakable faith. And I think she thought that if I had exposed myself to enough of this truth, I would eventually grab hold of it. But at the meantime, the whole way the relationship worked was just that I respected her beliefs and she respected mine. But it was very difficult because, to be honest, like I felt the opposite of everything that she did. But the only thing that kept us together was that we really loved each other. I know it sounds weird that you could have such difference, but that's really how it is.
Is there a specific thing in the book you read that really made you feel, or is it a combination of the whole book? What was the turning point,
Sure.
or the thought that the flash?
Right. So the book is based on Kabbalah, and but it's in a very simple format. So it's telling you like the very deepest essence of Judaism, but in a simple to read way. And I think when I realized how deep Judaism was, and that it wasn't the superficial thing that I thought it was, and on top of that, I'm a social worker, and my whole life, all I ever cared about was like making the world a better place. All I ever wanted to do was like bring love and peace into this world, and I thought religion was doing the opposite. And when I saw that the goal of Judaism was to get to this final place where we're in peace, where we're in love with each other, I just thought it was the most amazing thing. And the whole tour is just trying to explain to you how we get there. It just blew my mind. So that's kind of how it happened. Yeah. Yeah, so I had a rabbi who I became very good friends with. He lives in Memphis now. And we have a lot in common. We both love sports, and he understood me. And he got where I was coming from, but he just felt like he didn't necessarily himself have the answers for me. But he learned from this rabbi in Israel, Rabbi David Aaron, and I guess based off of that experience, he felt like this person might be able to get through to me. And he was right. I read all of his books after that, and I actually met him in Israel, and he took me around the old city. I went to speak to him, and I thought he'd speak to me for like a minute, and he said, "Are you doing anything today?" I said, "Not really." He said, "Do you want to take a walk around the old city?" I was like, "Sure." So my wife says to him at the time, she wasn't my wife, she says, "He has a million questions. Please answer them." And I thought he was going to be like, "Yeah, why don't you just ask me one and we'll see what happens?" He says, "Okay, shoot." So I was like, "Okay." So I'm just like reeling off question after question, these things that have bothered me for a very long time.
What was the first question?
I don't remember. It was a couple years ago. Also don't remember. But you know, a lot of it has to do with like I saw so much suffering in the world within myself, and I couldn't put together like how there can be these things which I consider to be so bad or sad with the fact that there's a loving God. I think that was really the hardest thing for me. I mean, a rabbi even said to me once, "I don't think you don't believe. I think you're just angry," and I think he was right. So.